Welcome back to class, everybody. This is Lance Howell. I'm going to be showing you a little bit about or continuing our discussion on Python. Um, Last time we left off, we were talking about using variables and strings and assigning our text to the strings or to the variables. Well, we're going to take that a little bit farther because we previously had to hand code the changes within the variables and what we wanted to say. But this time we're going to do a little thing differently and discover what it's like to get the computer to make decisions on its own. This is a little clip I found. I know y'all enjoyed the Dilbert clips or cartoons and that I've been bringing, so this is one. This is how one more clever move and I will have written the perfect computer program. Yes! And then Dogbert says, spike it at the end zone. Because Dilbert is so excited to get the program written, he about flips over his computer. That's the way a lot of programmers think. We are going to talk about making decisions with the if statement and for loops within Python. The if statement is called a conditional statement within programming. It is used to test if something is true or false. And you can use loops if you want some action to repeat or the test to repeat over and over again. Loops repeat until the condition is not met. Okay, we will start off by discussing the if statement. And this is the condition or the syntax for the if statement. You have if within parentheses some sort of condition, and I chose for just an example if x equals 38. Then you'd have colon, then enter, and in most visual editors such as Visual Studio Code, Atom, Idle, and others, most of the time it will automatically indent the line 4 spaces because that's what the Python syntax states. And then you write the code that happens if this condition is true. But if the condition is not true, if for some reason up here, it says x equals 40, then down here, if x equals 38 would be false, so it would go to this else statement, and run the code right here. Then after that, run continue running the rest of the code. And if the condition is true and is met, then after it runs the true code, it will skip this part right here and go down to here. And this is a little bit about what I was just saying. If the expression is true, then the code will run. If it is false, the code will either break out of the if statement or run an else code if the code block has one. And then it will continue on running the program. Okay, now we'll have a challenge, and this challenge will be fairly simple, and I'll give y'all 15 minutes to work on it, and then we'll go over the answer to the challenge that I came up with. And remember that my answer is not the only way we can do the problem in programming and developing. There are several solutions to the problem. Now the challenge will be to determine if a number is odd or even. The user will enter in a number and gets the number the number gets assigned to a variable x. Then it will display the word even or odd depending on the value of the variable. You will need to use the modulo operator and if else and if else statement. Modulo computes the remainder from the division. 8 modulo 3 equals 2. Since you divide 8 by 3, you will have a remainder of 2. So that's how you get that. Okay. I think I've given you enough time to complete the challenge. We had about 15 minutes. This is the answer I came up with. And remember, it's important to comment your program. This way, like we learned the first week, this way the program itself will have documentation on how it works and what the variables may mean and all, because you're supposed to use meaningful variables. Comments come in handy, and it's also handy in class, so I can tell them what assignment this was for and who submitted it. But I initialized the variable to 0, so x becomes an integer. Then I try to get the user input and assign the user input to x. input, enter an odd or even number. Now, because of we're using this input statement, this statement, the number that you enter is going to be a string variable. So a string cannot be calculated or used in mathematics. So we have to convert that into an integer, which I did with this int statement around the input statement. And I think that may be one or a tricky thing that we did not go over before class. But after I get that number assigned to x, then we do the calculation to find out if x is an even or odd number. So if x is modulo 2 equals 0, and remember you've got to use double equal signs to show equal. Then you print x is even. And this statement right here, it's something I added. It wasn't part of the assignment, but I added it. And this just allows you to add the variable within or inside of a string. So I did that. And otherwise, you could print x on the next line by adding a new print statement. But if x is not modulo 2, does not equal 0, then x is odd. And that should give you the correct answer. Now we will go into our security class. We're going to continue our discussion on the methods of an ethical hacker. We're talking about footprint and social engineering. Before I get that in here, here's a little comic about security. Mordak, the preventer of information services. Security is more important than usability. In fact, in a perfect world, no one would be able to use anything. To complete the login procedure, stare directly at the sun. That's ridiculous, and but that just proves to the point that you cannot, or usability is not always the same as making something secure, and you've got to balance the two. But we're going to discuss footprinting, which is part of the first stage of ethical hacking, and it's part of the reconnaissance phase, or some people call it the information gathering phase. That's one thing we use all the time to gather this sort of information is we use the internet, and you can use the internet to be able to gather information about the target and company without actually setting foot of the on the property or within the systems of the company, which is always a good thing to be aware of because security um, because the more you know about the company, the better you'll be. And you can look over the company's location, and if you need to get information about security cameras or guards on staff or something like that, you can search for the company's address and look up Google Maps on the company and discover quite a bit of things about the company and find out where weaknesses in the physical security is especially helpful whenever you do a physical penetration testing. But you can also find weakness in the systems and discover information about the target, such as you can find from job postings on LinkedIn. You can find information such as what type of machines the company is using. If someone is requesting somebody with 20 years of experience in AWS or cloud services, then that's good to know, so you can um, have information that could be an attack vector you can use. One set of intelligence gathering that is often used with between companies is called competitive analysis or intelligence. And a lot of these techniques are known as open source intelligence or OSINT. OSINT provides free and public or paid public information that you can obtain legally. These include court documents, birth certificates, marriage license, addresses, names, phone numbers, stuff like that, email addresses. There are several tools that you can use. You can use web pages to find out employee information and find out who's in charge. Use their find an organizational chart for the company. You can see how many offices they have and who the weakest links may be. You can use a tool called Footprint Spider. This tool allows you to scan a network and gather information such as email addresses, subdomains, who is database information, all kinds of interesting stuff. You can also find out if a email address may have been attacked or used some in a vulnerability. You can also use Google. Google searching is very powerful, and you can use once you know how to search Google, you can find pretty much anything quickly. And then the WHOIS database. This isn't as valuable of a resource as it used to be because a lot of companies are deciding to go private with their um, database information. So take it for what it's worth. You can also use a tool called the Harvester to search for addresses, uh, subdomains, all information about people. Another aspect to footprinting to gather information is called social engineering. This is a strip. Dogbert has a new hobby. It's called phishing. I send fake banking emails to gullible executives, and then I find out their financial information and use it to steal the money they don't deserve. And it says, "Dear customer, this is your bank. We forgot your social security number and password. Why don't you send them to us so we can protect your money? Sincerely, a hobby banker." And then the boss says, "That looks legit." So he's been fished, most likely. And here are some tactics that um, social engineers use to get the information they require. They use persuasion, intimidation, coercion, and extortion and blackmail. This has become a major security problem because people are the weakest link, because they want to help whoever asks them questions in general. And this and social engineers know that, so they plead or use psychological techniques to um, get them to tell them what they need. And it's difficult to protect against because um, most social engineers attacks cannot be prevented by adding new equipment or anything like that. It's mostly prevented by um, testing the user and providing training. Because why should you crack a password when you can ask for it? Social engineering attackers understand how to read body language and personality traits. This is the major issue with social engineering, is that it's a very psychological attack. Some ways to mitigate social engineering attacks is by user awareness training. Verify caller identity. You need to ask questions of the caller. Call the person back from a known number that you know of. Call them back to confirm. And also have security drills and practices on with your IT staff. There are several types of social engineering attacks. You have dumpster diving, shoulder surfing, tailgating, phishing, otherwise or also known as smishing if it's phishing using SMS text messages, or vishing if it's over the voice or video, and also impersonations. Attackers can impersonate to themselves to be a repairman, salespeople, pest control, stuff like that. Well, that's the end of my discussion. I want to know is, do y'all have any questions? I hope you enjoyed that short, semi-short presentation. And I will talk to you again soon. Thanks.